Hello, welcome to the Saroy channel. I'm so glad you've joined me this evening. I've got a fabulous story for you. It's all about seasonal work in Alaska because a lot of people go to Alaska during the summer months when we don't have the COVID-19 crisis, of course, and they get jobs there. And there's so many jobs that you can get. And this lady got herself a job as working as a waitress, but she played a flute and she had an experience with a Bigfoot. So I know you're going to enjoy this story, so let's get started. But before we do, I'd love you to subscribe to my channel because I have got so many wonderful stories that you're going to absolutely love. So let's get started. Dear Sarah and all your lovely listeners, my name is Tori and my Bigfoot encounter happened to me in Alaska. I live in Los Angeles, but I'm an outdoorsy type of person who simply loves adventure and exploring. And I decided that I really wanted to visit Alaska because it is a part of North America that has always intrigued me. I knew that it could be expensive to go there for a holiday, but I decided to go there as a seasonal worker for 4 months. And that way I would get to see this beautiful part of North America. You see, there's so many seasonal jobs during the summer months that you can apply for because the summer is the time when tourists from all over the world visit Alaska. You can imagine how many extra jobs the summer months create. And so Alaska has to recruit outside help to manage those many jobs. I got a job as a waitress serving all the tourists that visit Juneau at this one particular place. I was also given board there and included meals. I really enjoyed my job, even though it was hard work, because Alaska is a beautiful place and the locals are the most amazing, down-to-earth people that you can ever hope to meet. I was fortunate enough to make friends with a girl whose family lived in a remote cabin in the Alaskan wilderness. Her parents were flying to Boston to see some relatives, and they needed someone to take care of their dog while they were away, and what's more, they would pay me well. This seemed the perfect opportunity for me to experience what life in a cabin in the middle of nowhere was like. It was something that I've always wanted to experience. My friend explained the importance of carrying a rifle with me at all times and how to use it for my own protection should the need arise. The dog I was looking after was a retired sleigh dog and his name was Gabs. And he was a beautiful, sensitive creature, and from the moment I met him, we bonded. The cabin was much more cozy than I'd ever imagined a cabin to be. I was expecting it to be very rustic and austere, but on the contrary, it was really cozy and very stylishly decorated. The bedroom was the coziest room in the cabin, with a beautiful, large, open stone fireplace, and the largest bed I have ever seen. I kid you not, it was equivalent to 2 king-size beds married together. So I imagine they had all their linen handmade. The views outside the cabin were spectacular, and there were trees scattered all over the landscape, absolutely everywhere. That night I went to bed in the most comfortable bed I have ever slept in my life. And despite how enormous the bed was, Gabs lay at my feet. I awoke to hear a whooping sound coming from outside the cabin, and it seemed quite close. I was not au fait with animal sounds, and so I wondered what creature could have made a sound like that. I had no clue. The next morning I woke up, had breakfast, took Gabs for a walk, and finally sat outside a tree with Gabs lying by my feet, and I practiced my flute. I'd been playing the flute all my life, and I love it so very much. And so I started to play some of my favorite pieces that I know by heart. Sometimes I get so lost in the memento of the music that I can play for hours. Suddenly something seemed to be humming to my music, especially when I hit the more somber B-minus notes. Whatever it was clearly was enjoying my music. I looked around to see who was humming, and I saw this huge black creature that resembled a black bear at first glance. But as I looked closer, I could see that he was anything but a bear. The creature was humanoid in its body shape, only giant-like in comparison to human proportions. It also had much longer arms than we do, as well as a head with an unusual cone shape to it. And it had these bright brown sparkling eyes that looked so kind. Well, at least that's what I thought. Whatever this creature was, he was enjoying and loving my flute music, and I continued to play, all the while watching him in awe. This creature continued to hum, and he swayed his head in time to the music, and he was appreciating it so very much. I kept asking myself, what in the world is this thing that I am seeing before me? I did not feel fear of this creature because of its humanness, despite the fact that it was enormous. And although it had human-like traits, it did have a trait of the large gorilla, the kind that you see on Animal Planet. When I stopped playing, the creature looked very disappointed, and he waved his hands in a funny way as if to say, carry on. So I found myself playing more music, much to his delight, and I watched him close his brown eyes tightly and continuing humming to himself. He really was so responsive to my music, much more so than a human audience has ever been. Once I'd finished playing, he was gone from my sight. The next day, when I went to play the flute, I heard a loud rustling sound, and then, standing before me were two of these creatures. I think the creature from the day before had brought a friend to listen to my flute, and he was as responsive, if not more so, to my music. Before long, the two of them were humming and swaying their heads in time to my flute. I forgot to mention, every night I would hear those whooping sounds outside my cabin. On the final day I was staying at the cabin, the two creatures were waiting for me to play the flute. I could see them outside the kitchen window. They were chattering excitedly to each other like human beings who are looking very forward to something. I went out to play my flute for what seemed to be the last time, because I would return to my seasonal waitressing job in Juneau and finally fly back home to Los Angeles. I asked my friend what the giant animals were that I saw outside the cabin, and she asked me to describe them to her, and she told me that I must have encountered Bigfoot and drawn them out of the forest with my music. I was told that they are normally so elusive, so I was extremely privileged to get to see them. To have seen them and to have spent a few days in that cabin in the Alaskan wilderness with the beautiful sleigh dog Gabes was wonderful. That time was one of the most beautiful times in my life. I hope you and your listeners enjoyed my story. What a lovely story. It seems that our Bigfoot enjoys B minor music. Until next time, good night and goodbye.